Special Forces training videos are everywhere, and most of them are lying to you about what actually makes the exercises work. You've seen the pull-up, the push-up, the crawl, the squat. You probably tried them. And you got wrecked the first time you carried real weight over real ground for real hours because you were only ever shown the half that looks good on camera. Today, you get all five, trained the way they're actually tested in the field, not for a thumbnail. And the last one looks the most boring of the five until you learn what it prevents. I'm Ranger Jack. I've spent the last 17 years outfitting and guiding people through multi-day alpine and winter trips, and I'm not selling you a program. I'm telling you what's actually held up on trail. Here's the thing nobody tells you about Special Forces training content. The exercises are usually real. The movement is legitimate. What's missing is everything that makes it actually transfer. The duration, the fatigue, the unstable ground, the load. You can watch 100 of these videos, copy the movement exactly, and still get humbled the first time you carry a pack for 10 hours instead of doing 10 reps in a mirror. So we're not doing a highlight reel today. We're doing the version that actually gets tested. Number one, the pull-up, or more specifically, the dead hang. Everybody trains this for reps, 10, 15, 20, whatever number makes a good caption. That number is the version built for a camera, not for the field. And it's the first thing people get wrong without ever realizing it. Reps aren't the version that matters out here. What matters is how long your hands can stay closed around something when your forearms are already screaming and there's still weight hanging off the other end of them. That's grip endurance. And it is not the same muscle and not the same skill as grip strength. You can crank out a dozen strict pull-ups in a gym, look genuinely strong doing it, and still have your hands give out on a rope, a ledge, or a pack strap 3 hours into a real day, long after the impressive part of your training would have already ended. Here's the actual failure point. Most people stop training the second the rep count looks respectable, and they never test what happens after that, when the muscle is already fatigued and the grip still has to hold anyway. That's the exact condition it needs to work in. And it's the one condition almost nobody trains for. In the field, grip doesn't fail during the hard part. It fails right before the hard part, when you're not braced for it, because nobody trains tired hands. They train fresh ones on a good day for a good camera angle. I've watched this exact thing happen on a resupply run, hauling gear over rock before the real climbing even started. Grip went first, not on the technical section, not on the exposed part, just hauling a loaded pack across flat, unglamorous ground. 2 clients, same trip, same failure. That's the version of this exercise nobody ever puts in a video, because there's nothing dramatic about a hand slowly losing its grip on a strap. It just looks like someone getting tired, but that someone getting tired moment is exactly where real injuries start. Is the dead hang narrow, situational on its own? Sure. It won't save you by itself, but it's the first domino in this entire list. If your hands go, nothing else here matters because you physically can't execute any of the other 4 without something to hold onto in the first place. Verdict: looks basic, is basic, and it's still the first thing that breaks when you actually need it most. And here's the part that should bother you a little. This is probably the exercise you'd have said you already had covered. Most people who can do 10 strict pull-ups walk around assuming their grip is a solved problem. It isn't solved. It's just untested. Grip strength shows up fast and feels satisfying to build, which is exactly why it gets treated as finished long before it actually is. Nobody posts a video of their hand slowly opening under fatigue because it doesn't look like anything until the exact moment it matters. And the next one, people think they've already mastered it. They haven't. Number 2, the push-up, but not the version you're picturing right now. Flat floor, hands shoulder width. Count to 20, done. That's the gym version, and it's almost useless for what you'd actually use pushing strength for outside. Real ground isn't flat. It's angled, loose, wet, uneven, sometimes all 4 at the same time, on the same slope. The version that actually transfers is done on a decline, or on an unstable surface entirely, a log, a rock, a loaded pack, because that's what teaches your shoulders, wrists, and core to brace while the base underneath you is actively shifting, not holding still for you. Why does this matter in practice? Because the moment you actually need pushing strength in the field, it's almost never in a controlled position. It's catching yourself mid-scramble. It's bracing against a slope so you don't slide further than you meant to. It's pushing off an uneven rock to get back on your feet fast before momentum decides for you. If you've only ever trained the flat, stable version, your body has never once practiced stabilizing through instability, and that stabilizing skill is exactly what keeps a stumble from turning into an actual injury. The failure point here is subtle, which is what makes it dangerous. It's not that flat push-ups are useless. They're a perfectly fine baseline, and I'm not telling you to stop doing them. The real problem is that people stop there and quietly assume the strength transfers automatically to unstable ground. It doesn't. Stability is its own trained skill, separate from raw pushing strength, and skipping it is exactly how a strong-looking gym body still goes down hard the first time the ground underneath it decides to move. Verdict: the movement itself is right. The surface it's trained on is almost always wrong. And the reason the flat version dominates every training video you've ever seen isn't that it's better. It's that it's easier to film, easier to count, and easier to make look clean for a thumbnail. An unstable surface push-up is messier on camera. The form varies, the depth varies. It doesn't look as crisp in a grid of 20 reps. So it gets left out, not because it doesn't work, but because it doesn't perform well as content. That's a pattern you'll see again before this list is done. This next one looks aggressive on camera. That's exactly why it gets faked. Number 3, Bumbre, the bear crawl. This is a full body loaded pattern, shoulders, hips, and core all coordinating together while you're low to the ground and actually moving, not posing. It looks primitive, almost a little silly, which is probably exactly why it gets treated as a warm-up instead of what it actually is. One of the closest things to how your body genuinely has to move under low cover through dense brush or across ground too unstable to cross standing upright. The trap here is duration, plain and simple. 10 seconds of bear crawl for a clip proves absolutely nothing except that you can hold a position for 10 seconds. What proves something real is sustaining it, real distance, real time, with your core staying tight the entire way instead of your hips sagging. The second fatigue shows up. Most people's wrists start complaining before their core does, and that tells you exactly where the actual weak link is sitting. That weak link stays completely invisible right up until you're forced to hold the position far longer than any demo would ever require of you. The real-world consequence shows up exactly when you need this movement for real, moving under obstacles, across loose scree, through terrain where standing upright simply isn't an option, and you don't get to choose otherwise. If the only version your body has ever practiced is the 10-second clip, you'll gas out at the exact moment you can least afford it, with no fallback and no shortcut back to standing. There's a fair, narrow honesty here. For a short burst, almost anyone can fake this and get away with it. It's sustained load over real distance where the truth actually comes out. Verdict: this one only counts if it's sustained. 10 seconds proves you can do it for 10 seconds and nothing else. I'll give you the honest technical reason this one gets faked more than almost anything else on this list. It's genuinely uncomfortable to sustain correctly. Your shoulders burn, your wrists complain, your hip hinge wants to rise up out of position the moment you get tired, because standing tall is easier than staying low. A camera doesn't capture discomfort. It captures a clean 10-second clip that ends right before the form breaks down. Out here, there's no cut. The form either holds under real duration or it doesn't, and you find out which one it is at the worst possible time. Now the one that separates strong from stable. Number 4, the pistol squat, or any single-leg squat variation. Two-legged squats train symmetrical strength evenly on flat ground, which is exactly the condition you almost never actually get. Real terrain never loads both legs evenly. You're stepping down onto a rock and catching your full weight on one leg mid-slope, adjusting mid-stride because the ground shifted under one foot and not the other. Unilateral leg strength, one leg at a time with real balance and real knee control built in, is what actually prevents the moment your ankle or your knee gives out on uneven ground at the exact moment you weren't braced for it. Here's where it gets genuinely risky instead of just hard. Done with bad knee tracking, the knee caving inward, using momentum to bounce out of the bottom instead of real control, this movement causes more problems than it solves. It looks impressive in a demo precisely because it's dramatic and difficult, but a sloppy pistol squat is actually a bigger injury risk than not attempting the movement at all. This is the one people fake the most out of anything on this list because it's genuinely the hardest to execute with real control, and momentum is very good at hiding bad form just long enough to look convincing on camera. The real payoff, done properly and with patience, is enormous. Genuine single leg strength and balance is one of the single biggest predictors of who stays upright on bad terrain and who doesn't, not raw two-leg strength, this specifically. But it demands a kind of patience and honest self-assessment most people skip entirely because progress here is slow and often not flattering to film. Verdict: high payoff, high technique requirement, and the one most people fake without ever realizing they're faking it. This is also the one where I tell clients to slow down the most, because rushing progress here is how you turn a strength exercise into an actual injury. Assisted versions, partial range versions, holding on to something for balance while you build the control, none of that is cheating. It's the only honest way to build this safely. The people who get hurt aren't the ones starting slow. They're the ones who saw a clean single-leg squat online and tried to skip straight to it, without the balance and knee control underneath it to actually support the movement. And the last one is the one everybody skips because it doesn't look like anything at all. Number 5. The plank or the hollow body hold. No movement, no reps, just sustained tension, held for real time. Which is exactly why almost nobody takes it seriously. It gets treated as warm-up filler, something you knock out for 30 seconds before the real workout starts. But this, quietly, is the exercise that keeps your spine protected under a heavy pack for hour after hour, day after day out on trail. And that accumulated strain is the injury that actually ends trips, far more often than anything dramatic ever does. I had a client whose back gave out mid-trip, not from a fall, not from anything sudden or camera-worthy, just from hours of accumulated load carried by a core that had never once been trained to hold tension for real duration. That's not a dramatic story, and it doesn't make for good footage. But it's the story over and over in this line of work. Nobody I've guided has ever pulled something doing the impressive move. They break down doing something completely ordinary for too long with no core endurance underneath it to absorb the strain. The nuance here is real and worth saying plainly. A strong plank alone won't carry a pack for you, and it's not a substitute for actual conditioning, but it's the difference between your spine staying protected under sustained load versus slowly failing without you noticing until it's far too late to fix while you're still 3 days from the trailhead. Verdict: the least impressive-looking exercise on this entire list is, by a wide margin, the one with the highest real-world stakes. Think about that for a second, because it's the whole point of this video. The most dangerous thing on this list isn't the movement that looks hardest. It's the one that looks like nothing, the one that never makes it into a highlight reel because there's nothing to show. A pistol squat gets views. A plank held for real duration doesn't. But one of them is what actually keeps you upright and uninjured by hour 8 of day 3, and it isn't the one that looks impressive on a thumbnail. So here's the actual test I run on every single one of these, and it's the same test I've used for 17 years, on myself and on every client, before I'll ever teach anything on trail. Would this still work, exhausted, soaked, with a 60-pound pack on, 3 days from the trailhead? If the honest answer is no, it doesn't make the cut, no matter how good it looks on a screen, and no matter how many people are already doing it that way. Run back through the list with that filter in mind. Grip endurance tested by time under tension, not just a rep count you can hit fresh. Pushing strength that actually holds up on unstable, uneven ground, not just a flat gym floor under perfect conditions. Full body crawling capacity that survives real distance and real duration, not a 10-second clip built for a feed. Single leg control that protects a joint instead of quietly gambling with it every time you step wrong. And core stability that holds for hours at a time, not 30 seconds before the real set finally starts. None of this is secret, and none of it requires a program, an app, or a subscription from me. I'm not selling you one, and I never have been. I don't have a course to push at the end of this, and I'm not about to pretend there's a shortcut hiding behind a paywall. It's 5 movements trained the honest way they're actually used out here, not the way they're filmed for a thumbnail. The exercises were never the lie in any of this. The lie was only ever training half of them and calling it done. One more thing, because I get asked this constantly. None of this replaces actually getting out there and testing yourself under real conditions, with real weight. Ideally, with someone who knows what they're looking at watching your form. A video, mine included, can tell you what to train and why. It can't watch your knee cave in on a pistol squat or catch your hips sagging on a bear crawl. If you're serious about any of this, get real eyes on your form before you load it up and take it somewhere remote. So tell me honestly in the comments, which one of these 5 have you only ever done the easy version of? Not the one you're already best at. The one you've been quietly skipping the hard version of. The one you already know the answer to before you even type it. I want to know which one gets you.